All right. Well, what's up, everybody? Good
Hey guys.
afternoon, or good morning, or good evening.
Good early morning.
There you go.
Nice. So, Barbara, it's early morning for you. I know it's probably the evening for our European friends out there. We got Jeremy, Kenny, Kyle, Russell, Ryan, Vicky, and then a CH with a bunch of numbers. Sometimes if
Christine.
Hey, Christine. There we go. That'll be easy to remember. Nice to meet all you guys. We've been looking over your questionnaires. We haven't gotten to everybody's questionnaires yet, but we've been looking over the ones we have, and there are some common themes for sure. A lot of people come from similar situations, looking for similar results. We really appreciate all you guys being here this month with us. As the start of the year kicks in, it's January. A lot of people making New Year's resolutions. A lot of people trying to just get back on track after a rough holiday season, which we totally relate with. There, it can be difficult to maintain, lifestyle and diet choices going in a positive direction coming in and out of the holidays. But this is a group that's here for you guys. As coaches, we're here for you. Anything you guys need, we're here to help you out. We know some of you are just looking for us to help you dial in your plan and kind of tell you what to do, right? So we do these lessons. Like today, we're going to be talking about macros. We're going to be talking a little bit about electrolytes. But feel free at any time to private message us, to ask us a specific question on your context. If you just want us to tell you what your macros should be rather than help you learn how to figure it out and adjust for yourself, that's totally fine. There are different people here for different purposes. The way we structure this is we do one weekly lesson in voice chat, and then we do another Q&A session in the middle of the week. So this month we're going to be doing it on Wednesdays. The Q&As will be on Wednesdays, and the lessons are going to be on Sundays. So today's the first lesson. We're going to be talking a little bit about macros, talking a little bit about setting up your macros, dialing in the macronutrients. What are macros? Why do we need to be concerned with them? And of what relevance are they for you? We're going to talk about all this today. We're going to get into electrolytes as well. But first, we're going to do some administrative stuff and talk a little bit about how the Keto Collective works. First of all, everybody made it into voice chat. Everybody that's signed in seems to be in live voice chat right now. So there doesn't seem to be much confusion about that. If you have any confusion about using Discord, feel free to either private message Jessica or myself. If you hover over somebody's name and then right-click it, you can message them. So anybody in the group, you're able to send a private message to them. Jessica and myself are here to answer your questions. And if you have any questions about how Discord works, feel free to private message us. Actually, I'm going to let Jessica jump in here. She's really good at giving the intro to Discord breakdown. So Jessica's going to give a little bit of an intro here to the Discord. What's going on, babe?
Did you do this one?
Nope.
Okay. Cool. So first, as I think most of you guys have already noticed, whenever your microphone is on and you're in the live voice chat, we can hear you, right? Which is great, but we can also pick up the background noises.
Right, like if we were quiet right now, you'd probably eventually hear our kids yelling, "Mommy!" in the background.
So if you could just mute your microphone by clicking the little microphone icon down at the bottom next to your name. It's on the bottom left. And please, whenever you want, you're welcome to unmute and hop on. Share whatever you have to share. Ask questions. Give us an update. It's really fun. The more we get to talk to each other in voice, it makes us super happy. It's awesome. And if you have any trouble when you do want to come on the call with your voice, if you have any trouble connecting, check your settings. Sometimes if you're using your mobile device, you just have to give access, which you can check in the settings, and it's usually something called allow microphone access. The ditto on that for the camera and photos. If you want to share anything in the chats, you're welcome to put in images and videos. Ryder's pre-nap time. You might hear him in the background. I'm gonna get Tristan. We're gonna swap here real quick. All right, Ryder's freaking out.
right, so she left off here on the rules. So the rules, basically, be kind, be supportive, right? We're not here to argue with each other. We're not here to beat each other up. We're here to help each other. We're here to support each other. So just respect each other. We're not here to argue, politics or, what's better. I don't know, medium rare or rare. And if you don't like rare and you like medium rare, you suck. Let's keep it nice. Everybody have fun and support each other. We've never had an issue with anybody being rude in any of our groups, so it's just a preliminary, just a precautionary warning. Text channels. There are several text channels that we've got started right now, and sometimes we add or subtract text channels as they are useful. So the text channels are kind of basically like a subsection of the forum. So we've got meal prep. Well, first of all, let me scroll up. We've got main chat. So main chat is where everybody's been introducing themselves. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing a little bit of information about yourself. It'd be great if everybody could introduce themselves in the main chat whenever you get a chance. Just what are you doing? What's your name? What are your goals? Why are you here? And what is this all about for you? Main chat is where we can talk about any of the subjects at hand. Main chat, many people will be talking in main chat when we are in these live voice chat sessions. So during the live voice chat sessions, if you want to engage and you can't engage with voice, right? Like a lot of people will be at work during these live voice chats, but they can listen in. A lot of people may be like in the car or something. So if you're at work and you're listening in and you can't speak, you can always type in your questions in the main chat during these live Q&A sessions. If you're driving, please don't be typing into the main chat. But yeah, main chat is just used for the topics at hand and during these live voice sessions. We've got the Q&A questions. Those are questions. If you're not going to be able to make one of the live Q&A sessions, which I think this week it's on Wednesday at 10 a.m. EST or 1 p.m. EST. I got to confirm with Jessica, who is being intensely harassed by Ryder right now. Let's see. So yeah, the Q&A questions. If during but before our live Q&As, any questions you've got, go ahead and throw them up in there. Sometimes we answer them if they're more pressing questions. Sometimes we don't save them for the Q&A live voice chats. Sometimes we'll just answer them for you in there. We've also got the meal prep session. So Jessica's going to be sharing with us meal prep lessons. She's got a whole meal prep lesson packet set up that can help you to set up your situation to where you're pre-preparing foods. Right? Because as we've talked about many times and as we're going to be learning about this month, it's about setting up long-term habits. It's about setting up habits we can stick with every day. So pre-preparing our food can be a huge benefit for many of us. So we've got the meal prep section over there to discuss meal prep strategies, and that's where she'll be dropping some knowledge. Jessica will be dropping several lessons per week about meal prep. We got the recipe exchange section, which that's kind of self-explanatory. We've got the circadian rhythm section where we will be sharing resources and where you can ask questions or discuss your own journey with optimizing your circadian rhythm. Because remember, it's about more than just food. We're not just working on what we eat here. It's not just about diet. It's about a comprehensive lifestyle approach. And your circadian rhythm is very important for informing your body when to digest and assimilate nutrients. Your circadian rhythm is intimately tied in with inflammation levels, with hunger levels, and blood glucose levels. So we're going to be working on that as well. The circadian rhythm section will be very helpful for many people in here today. Sometimes we think that it's just about diet, but we don't realize that the timing of our activities, our meals, and the timing of our exposure to light can be just as important, if not more important, than food for many of us. And then we've got the family room, another section, which is for sharing resources concerning families. We're all about families here, so we know quite a few super moms in the group, even some perhaps prospective parents who might be families soon. Sharing resources for families is why we have this section. The reflection room. Reflection room is just kind of a I don't know. What's the reflection room?
I have some journaling topics that I like to share during the month we have together. I usually put a journaling topic in about once a week. Tend to go for Friday posts because it's nice, you're going into the weekend if you have some time to reflect. And so I like those. They help kind of they have a different spin, trying to bring your awareness into diet and lifestyle through different angles.
Cool. And then we've got off topic, which self-explanatory. Off topic. Anything you want to talk about that's
technical difficulties in the beginning, anything off topic, things of that sort.
Yeah, just whatever you want to talk about. That's off topic. Throw it in the off topic section. So those are that's the chat sections we have right now. We might rearrange those as needed. Sometimes we add some. And yeah, so let's see. That's the intro to Discord. Like we said, like I said a little bit earlier, the structure of this, we're going to be doing lessons and lectures with an open-ended Q&A at the end each Sunday. Today it's at 1 o'clock. Next Sunday, what time is it at?
It's usually at 1 on Sundays.
Usually at 1. Sometimes we do them a little bit earlier, at like 10 o'clock. We will announce that if we have any changes to the scheduling. Wednesdays, we've got Q&As. Sometimes we do that a little earlier in the day, like 10 a.m. Sometimes we do it later in the afternoon, around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We try to move the timing around and make it so that everybody can make it to some of these. And of course, if you can't make it to the live Q&As, you just throw your questions up in the Q&A questions section in the text chat, and we'll hit on those questions during the chat. Also, of course, you're always welcome to private message Jessica or myself if it's not something you want to share with everybody. If you just got a question that's very specific and you want it just from Jessica or myself, feel free to private message us. The times for these chats and any changes to scheduling will always be available in the hub. And how do they get to the hub, Jessica?
That's the link I've been sending out, included in the last 2 emails that you've gotten from me. One was sent on Friday, and one was sent this morning. We call it the hub page. It's on our site. That's where all the audios, meal prep lessons, journal topics, printables, meal planning packets, links, recipes, and more are consolidated and collected. This is the place that you will have access to for lifetime. Right, this Discord is only open for the month, and then everything is converted over to the hub and it's password protected. That's really what to bookmark, long term. So you have all these resources at your fingertips as you move forward.
There you go. So the hub, that is, what's the URL for the hub?
It would be primaledgehealth.com/keto carnivore collective/January.
And you've emailed everybody the
Yep,
link to the
everybody
hub,
has a
right?
link. And I also send out recap emails on Fridays that let you know that the hub's been updated, and it has a link and the password as a reminder to anyone who hasn't gotten it yet.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Now. Did we talk about the welcome packet yet?
The welcome packet was sent out this morning. Links to download both of our ebooks are in there, as well as discount codes if anybody's interested in the physical book. There's a code for each of them for 15% off. Our suggested shopping list is in there too, as well as a list of recommended resources. So that can be really nice. I know a lot of you guys are just getting into keto or kind of just returning it after a few months off. So just to remember, keto, it is a low carb diet, right? So refining your vegetable choices, getting as minimally processed foods as possible, focusing on animal sources of protein, fresh eggs, fresh vegetables if you like them, and lots of healthy fats.
There you go. So the books are both very, very helpful. We teach a lot of the criteria we teach here is also in the books. The Ketogenic Edge cookbook is more keto recipes, right, based around whole unrefined foods. And then there's a baking book, which is nice for like family gatherings and stuff. Well, the holidays are over now, so in December it would have been much more applicable. But every once in a while, it can be nice to make some of these more decadent keto things. We definitely do not teach to build. We don't want to build a diet around keto cakes and stuff. But every once in a while, you got a birthday party, you got a potluck. It can be nice to bring a low-carb dish that other people might not even know is low-carb, and it can be a nice bridge for friends and family. We know there's people who are on getting into this lifestyle, getting into keto and carnivore-style diets, and they want to bring their family along. Sometimes you get that stubborn husband or wife, and bridging the gap with some of these foods that might taste like, like normal decadent foods, but are keto friendly, it can be helpful. It can be a useful tool in certain situations, but it's not something we want to be building the diet around. So the shopping list and the recommended resources guide, those are both going to come in handy as we're moving forward, refining our habits. Because a lot of folks here are just getting started. A lot of people here are just doing keto for the first time, and that's great. It seems like every single month we got a totally different theme and different group of people. So this is more of a newbie group, whereas last month much of the group had already been doing keto for several months, 3 to 6 months, some of them over a year, and we're just refining their habits. So it's always nice to shake it up a bit. It seems like the theme of the month here is getting started. Right, everybody's just getting going on their low-carb adventure. Some of us have already been doing it for a few months, but it's going to be a really fun month. Remember, we're not in a hurry. We've got 4 weeks of material here to share with you, and you guys have full access to everything we share with you for a lifetime. As long as the internet and our website are around, you will have access to these resources. So we're not in a hurry. Don't get in in such a torrent of action trying to get everything perfect. We're going to work on these habits. It's one day at a time, one meal at a time. And by the end of this, you'll all have a solid foundation of experience, knowledge, and application of a low-carbohydrate, ketogenic, or carnivore-style diet in order to help you to lose body fat, which is what most of us here are going for, or to just get our body functioning as best as it can. Some of us are looking to add some lean muscle mass as well. So we've got different people here for different goals. Many of us for fat loss. Everybody looking for the benefits of a ketogenic diet, of a low-carbohydrate diet, for mental clarity, for inflammation levels, for stable blood glucose. And that's what we're here to help you do. We're here to help you create a solid foundation to where not only you will be able to maintain this for hopefully the rest of your life, but you'll be able to teach others as well and help others in your life to make solid changes to their nutrition, their dietary habits, and lifestyle habits to help us to live better. All right, so first lesson. First thing we're talking about today is macros. The macros. What the heck are macros? The macros. There are 3 macronutrients. Those are basically just nutrients that are available in large quantities in foods. There are macro and micronutrients. Macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrate. Micronutrients are available in much smaller quantities, like magnesium, potassium, sodium, iron, zinc, calcium, phosphorus. These are micronutrients. Vitamins and minerals available in small quantities in food. The macros, the reason people are so concerned with the so-called macros, because they're available in large quantities in food and they affect greatly our hormonal response to meals. So we're going to get into this today, the hormonal response to macros, why adjusting macronutrients is far more powerful than the old count your calories, eat less, move more fallacy for losing weight, which many of us in this group have experienced. Right? Many of us have tried everything, seemingly every diet out there, and bounced back. So we're here to try to create a solid foundation of habits you can stick with long term. Now the macros, understanding the macros is crucial to starting a ketogenic diet. There are 3 macros: protein, fat, carbohydrate. 2 of those macros are energy sources. Those energy sources are carbohydrate and fat. That other macro, protein, is not an energy source. It is there for maintaining lean muscle mass, for maintaining bone mineral density, for maintaining your body composition, right? For maintaining strength and muscles, for maintaining your immune system function, hair, nails, all these things. There are hormones that depend also on amino acids. Human growth hormone, you require protein for that. That 3rd macro, I just gave it away. It's protein. So protein is there as a building block for the body. Carbs and fats are energy sources. Now, of course, your body does store carbohydrate and fat. Fat is involved in many physiological processes in the body. communication, immune function, building of cell walls, etc. But when we eat fat or we eat carbs, we are looking at those as energy macros. Those are energy sources. So your body can burn fat and carbohydrate. You don't want to be using protein as an energy source, although you can break down amino acids, and certain amino acids can get converted into glucose to use as an energy source. Although that is true, we're not looking at protein as an energy macro. Protein is there to bring satiety. All right, so if you're trying to lose body fat, you want to look at protein as the most satiating macro. So getting enough protein in will make it so that we are not hungry for the other macros. One of the most simple rules you can teach somebody when trying to make body composition changes, when trying to get their health in line, when trying to lower blood glucose, is eat more protein. Why is that? Well, that's because protein is treated unlike other macros in the body. Protein brings satiety better than any other macro, and its effect on insulin and glucagon ratio is very important for understanding the deep physiological effects of different macronutrient compositions on the body. So Jessica, can you please share in the main chat that talk from Dr. Bickman, Dr. Benjamin Bickman, on protein and insulin with glucagon ratios? Now, a lot of people have been scared of protein. A lot of people starting out a ketogenic diet have been told you got to limit your protein intake. Most of the literature on a ketogenic diet that you see out there in the medical field comes from medical ketogenic diets dispensed to young children. In those situations, right, when they were dealing with refractory epilepsy, where nothing else was working, where their brain chemistry needed to be regulated through dietary means, and no other drugs were working to get their epilepsy in line, they ended up finding that a ketogenic diet would be very effective. Fasting historically has been used to stop seizures as well. That's kind of what led them to try to do a fasting mimicking diet with keto. So a lot of the medical literature you see is concerning young children on a ketogenic diet who need to maintain very therapeutic levels of ketones. In such cases, where you need to maintain super high levels of ketone, they were using much lower protein than most people who are going to be looking at keto for fat loss would be wanting to use. Also, they had much higher fat intake in the diet, and it was always like 80 to 90% fat in those diets for medical purposes. Now, why is that? Well, a ketogenic diet, when you're getting sufficient protein, when your body begins burning fat, when you cut out the carbohydrates and have stable blood glucose and are burning fat for fuel, you're very satiated. Ketones bring satiety, right? So when you restrict carbohydrate, your body will burn fat. When you give yourself a lot of carbohydrate, your body will not be burning fat. Your body will burn carbohydrate as its primary source of fuel. The body isn't binary with these fuels. It's constantly using fat and carbohydrate. There are times and activities when you use more fat or more carbohydrate. But on a ketogenic diet, we are removing the exogenous source of fuel, carbohydrate, and fueling exclusively with fat. This will drop hunger levels significantly in most people. Now, in kids with epilepsy, if you drop their hunger levels, they are not going to be able to gain weight. They're not going to be able to meet their growth needs dietarily. So that's why that super high fat ratio has been kind of ingrained in people's consciousness concerning ketogenic diets, because that comes from the medical literature. Now, what I want everybody to understand here is that these two macronutrients, carbs and fat, are not an absolutely binary system, right? You can still burn some fat when you're eating carbohydrate. But when you pull that carbohydrate out, you will be oxidizing and utilizing a significantly higher ratio of fat as your fuel. So what we're doing is we're training the body to burn fat by removing carbohydrates. But the body's not going to be able to tap into body fat and burn that efficiently without sufficient protein. Now Jessica's going to share this link for the insulin to glucagon ratio talk from Dr. Benjamin Bickman. For those of you who are interested in getting a little bit more into the details about the hormonal response to food and the different hormonal response that we get to protein, when we have either low or high carbohydrate intake. It's a very fascinating talk all about why we don't need to be afraid of protein. Why rather we should focus on getting sufficient protein. All right, so the first macro that we're concerned with setting up is protein. We all need protein. We all got to get sufficient protein. Protein is the cornerstone macro of any keto meal. That fat that we burn on a ketogenic diet, that can come from our plate or from our body. So first of all, we get enough protein. How do we know we're getting enough protein? That's what we're going to talk about now. So protein, which is needed for bone mineral density, proper hair growth, right? Collagen synthesis, thyroid hormone output, human growth hormone, gaining or maintaining lean muscle mass. We're not looking at that as an energy source. We're looking at that as a source of satiety. So, anywhere from about 1.5 up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of our lean body mass is going to be sufficient protein. Now, looking at lean body mass can be kind of confusing, right? So, well, what's my lean body mass? It's actually relatively simple. Lean body mass is your total mass minus your fat mass, right? So if you estimate you're 20% fat and you weigh 200 pounds, your lean body mass is about 160 pounds. How much protein is enough? Well, anywhere from between about 1.5 to 2.2 grams per kilogram. I just did that in pounds. So if you're doing pounds, I got ahead of myself. Sorry, guys. If you're doing it in pounds, that ends up being about, what is that? That's about 0.6 to 0.9 grams per pound of your goal body weight. So let's say 0.6 to 1 gram of your goal body weight or your lean body mass. All right, so lean body mass, if you're 200 pounds and you're 20% body fat, lean body mass is 160. So about 0.8 times 160 would give you sufficient protein. Now, that is not way too much. It's definitely not way too little. Some people do better on the lower end of the spectrum. Some people want to be lower, like 0.6 grams per pound of lean body mass. Now, in other situations, in one situation rather, I'm going to rephrase this so I get this right and don't cause confusion. In one situation, we don't really want to concern ourselves with lean body mass, but rather we'd want to look at goal body weight. If we've got more than like 40, 50 pounds to lose, or I mean some of us are looking to lose like 100 pounds in the next couple of years, right? If we've got more body weight to lose, using your goal weight can be a little bit easier than looking at your lean body mass, right? So if you're, say you're 280 pounds and you think you want to be about 160 pounds, right? Use 160 pounds to calculate your protein, your minimum protein requirements, right? So 0.8 times 160 might be a little bit easier calculation than trying to calculate your lean body mass right now. Because a lot of your body weight that you have right now, a lot of your body composition you have right now is going to be transforming dramatically when you lose that 100 pounds, right? Your whole collagen network of your body is going to be completely different when you have 100 pounds or even 20 pounds less on your frame. So a lot of the muscle we carry around is to carry around the fat mass that we're carrying at the time too. So if you're 300 pounds, you don't necessarily need to eat for 300 pounds of lean body mass on protein. Look at your goal body weight. Now, Jessica just put a visual chart in for helping to estimate your body fat percentage and your lean body mass. So that chart is actually relatively accurate. I think that's the one that the Navy actually uses for estimating body fat percentage. So protein, again, to reiterate, we need protein. There's a minimum requirement for protein. If you're looking at it in kilograms, about 1.5 to 2.2 gram per kilogram of lean body mass or your goal weight. And if you're looking at it in pounds, about 0.6 to 1 gram per pound of lean body mass or your goal weight is going to be enough protein. Now, some of us will need less protein. Some of us will need more. I find that a lot of ladies are not used to eating a significant amount of protein. Some women require less than, say, like a resistance training man, right? If you're trying to gain lean body mass, you might want to be on the higher end of the protein spectrum. If you've got so much weight to lose and your hunger is just so freaking low and you're not hungry at all, then you might want to be on the lower end of the protein spectrum. But we want to look at protein as bringing satiety and building the body up and keeping our immune system strong. So get enough protein and you won't be hungry. All right, one of the most simple rules you could teach someone is if you eat the steaks, you're not going to care about the cakes. Eat the steaks before the cakes. All right, steaks before cakes. So that's protein. Get the protein in, you'll be satiated. Then we got fat and carbohydrate, right? Now on a ketogenic diet, on a low carbohydrate diet, carbohydrates are non-essential. Now many people enjoy having leafy green vegetables, having fibrous carbs in their diet. When you're looking at vegetables, at like very low glycemic and non-glycemic vegetables, a lot of those you don't even really have to count as carbs, right? Like if you're eating a cucumber, you don't really need to count that as cucumbers, lettuce, avocado. These are very, very low carb, high fiber foods. That being said, some people do better without the plant foods. Many people find that their inflammation levels are affected dramatically by some of these defense mechanisms that plants have in them: lectins, oxalates in foods, phytates. A lot of people are highly sensitive to these compounds in plants and do better without them. But if you're going to be including plants in the diet, we want to be focusing on low glycemic, low sugar vegetables. All right, stuff that's not super high in sugar, that's released very rapidly into the blood. So if you check out the what is it called, the shopping guide in the
I just put it in the meal prep room.
Cool. The meal prep room, Jessica just put in the welcome packet. In there is a shopping guide and then the macronutrient breakdown guide, right?
I'll put that in there now.
Okay. There's a macronutrient breakdown guide as well, which just lists most of the foods that we recommend on a ketogenic diet. So vegetable foods or plant foods, some of these are fruits. Avocado and cucumber are both fruits. Lettuces, leafy green vegetables, depending on the individual, might be great to include. And those are totally fine. But we want to avoid, though, are foods like sugars, like fruits, sugary fruits like banana, pears, stuff like that. We're going to keep those out. But foods like celery that are mostly water, sodium, some micronutrients, and a bunch of fiber are fine on a ketogenic diet. So carbohydrate we want to keep low. Most of us are going to want to keep carbs around 20 grams net carbs max. 20 to 30 grams net carbs max will keep us in that ketotic zone. As long as we're getting enough protein, our hunger should stay low, and we'll be able to burn that other macronutrient, fat. Now, fat has been falsely demonized over the years, right? A lot of people have said that, saturated fat is so bad. Saturated fats are terrible, even though we store these fats throughout our body, right? We store it as a major fuel source. In fact, we store far more calories with fat than we do with carbohydrate in our body, which should indicate something about its usefulness as an energy source. So fat is going to be the energy source on a ketogenic diet. And there are several types of fat. We got monounsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, saturated fat. Polyunsaturated fats are the omega fatty acids, right? Omega-6 fatty acid, omega-3 fatty acid. And while these are necessary, they're not necessary in large quantities, right? A couple grams of DHA per day can have incredible benefits to the human body. That can be procured just from some fish. Monounsaturated fat is an energy source, whereas polyunsaturated fat are not used for energy. Polyunsaturated fats are used for cell membranes and for rebuilding cells in the body. That can be used for several other functions in the body, but they are not used as an energy source. They aren't oxidized for energy like saturated fat and monounsaturated fat are. Now, monounsaturated and saturated fats are fats that are found in animals as well. Saturated fat and monounsaturated fats are both highly usable as an energy source. Monounsaturated fats can be liberated very quickly. You can also find monounsaturated fats in things like olive oil, avocado, nuts and seeds, macadamias. And saturated fats are found primarily in animal foods, although coconut oil is a very good source of saturated fat from the plant world. So saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. We're focusing on using monounsaturated and saturated fats for energy, right? Those are animal fats. Those are fats that come from animals. Those polyunsaturated fats you're going to get from animal foods, but they're also very high in plant foods, but that's the omega-6 variety. So the omega-6 fatty acids are very inflammatory, very reactive, and they are essential in the body, but when you eat too much of them, like a lot of peanut butter or something like that, we can get inflammation in the body, and they're not a very good source of energy. Right? So flax seeds, probably not the best source of energy. Whereas if you look at a steak and it's full of monounsaturated fat and saturated fat, that is a great source of energy. So how much fat do we need on a ketogenic diet? Now, the first thing we want to do when we're starting out keto is make sure we're getting enough protein and we keep those carbs low. How much fat we need is going to be context dependent. So we'll give you a few different contexts now and break down how to calculate how much fat you need. Now, when you're starting out a ketogenic diet, I don't recommend that anybody goes below 1 gram of fat per gram of protein. So if you calculate you need about 120 grams of protein, try not to go under 120 grams of fat, especially in the beginning when you're starting out, because when we get adapted to this diet, it takes time. It can be actually pretty stressful when you're adapting to a ketogenic diet. Your body is dropping its previous preferred fuel source, carbohydrate, and it's got to learn how to burn fat effectively. That takes time. It takes several weeks to get adapted to keto, and the longer we're in this pathway, the better adapted we get. So adaptation takes time. Usually people feel pretty good after a few days or a week or two, but the beginning of a ketogenic diet is the hardest. While we're in that transition phase, we don't want to restrict calories too much, so we want to give ourselves significant fat, so we're not just forcing the body to burn body fat. We don't want to just eat only protein and tell the body, just burn your own fat. That's a really easy way to burn out. So we want to transition to this diet by getting some fat on that plate, and if we're going to burn fat from the body as a long-term goal, we'll adjust the macros accordingly after we get adapted to the diet. So in the beginning, get your protein in. Get at least 1 gram of fat per gram of protein. Some people might feel more comfortable on much higher fat intake in the beginning too. All right, sometimes it's better to go about 1.5 grams of fat per gram of protein, which I think that'll actually put you at about 70% or 80% fat by calories. Although we're not concerned with macronutrient ratios. What we're concerned with is making sure we're getting enough protein to bring satiety, enough protein to drop hunger levels down so that we can burn that body fat if the goal is fat loss. So get enough protein in the beginning. At least 1 to 1.5 grams of fat. Some of you might even want to be a little higher on the fat. Some of us might feel more comfortable when we're starting out a keto diet, like 2 grams of fat per gram of protein. But we will adjust how much fat we eat according to several things. First of all, your comfortability with that fat. If you just start guzzling down a bunch of MCT oil and butter, you're going to feel terrible. Right? If you just try to eat like 200 grams of fat and you haven't had more, and you haven't been eating a high-fat diet, your body has to upregulate certain enzymes to break down those fats. Your body's got to generate mitochondria to burn fat. Right? Like a ketogenic diet increases mitochondrial density. The mitochondria, those are little powerhouses inside of our cells that fuel our body and actually create energy. You've got to generate more mitochondria in order to burn fat. So stuffing too much fat into the diet in the beginning can make us nauseous, our digestion can get off. So about 1 to 1.5 grams of fat per gram of protein seems to be the sweet spot for most people getting started on a ketogenic diet. Now, if you're highly active and you need a lot of calories, and if you're doing a lot of running and heavy resistance training, you're probably going to be eating a little bit more fat than somebody who's more sedentary. As we get adapted to the diet, after hunger levels drop down, then what we do is we can adjust the fat intake in order to burn more body fat. So say you go a week and you're eating 120 grams of protein, 140, 150 grams of fat, and you feel great. Your mental clarity's there, your inflammation levels are going down, your blood glucose is stable, so you're just not hungry at all throughout the day. and tell me, Tristan, I'm just not able to eat my last meal of the day. I'm not even hungry. Well, how great is that, right? How many people who are trying to lose body fat or try to do a diet have the opposite problem, where they're hungry all the time and they're just starving? And that's the cool thing about keto. It doesn't magically make us lose weight just because we're eating ketotic foods. Just because we're eating a fat-based diet doesn't make us automatically lose weight. What keto does, it helps us manage hunger through leveraging our hormones and through leveraging the power of the satiating effects of ketones in the body and in the brain. So after you get adapted and your hunger drops, then we can drop back on the dietary fat. Maybe if you were doing like 150 grams of fat, maybe dropping it down to 100 grams of fat. And if that feels like too much of a deficit, if you're still too hungry, then maybe somewhere right in the middle, like 120. Right, those simple adjustments to fat intake, which might just be removing 2 tablespoons of fat from the diet per day, can allow us to burn significantly more fat from our body. Right, so less fat on the plate means we burn more fat from the body. But in the beginning, we're probably going to have more fat on the plate because we don't want to force the body into a state of stress as we're getting adapted to this new dietary pathway. So the goal is to make this as comfortable and enjoyable as possible so we can do it long term. Right? You got to enjoy the foods you're eating, but not so much that you're overeating the foods. Right? So the hyper palatable keto foods like Quest bars or like keto cakes and pies and stuff like that, having those all the time can make it really, really difficult to lose weight. That's why we focus on building the habits around nutrient-dense, unrefined foods. So remember, we're looking at the protein source as the crux of our plate. The protein source is the cornerstone of each keto meal we make. Those protein sources are always going to come with fat. All right, so how to track macros. Many of us use cell phones regularly, right? So there are a couple apps. You can use MyFitnessPal or Chronometer might be a better one. Jessica just threw a link up in there. It's actually from Dr. Berg. How to use the Chronometer app to track macros on keto. So each food's going to have several grams of protein, fat, and carbohydrate, the foods that you're focusing on eating. We want them to be animal-based foods for the protein sources. Those carbohydrates are going to be coming from plants. Some of those fats might be coming from plants if you're doing olive oil or olives, coconut oil, what's another plant fat? Avocado, stuff like that. Some of those fats be coming from plants. But if you're eating a protein source that's coming from an animal, that's going to naturally be coming with fats. It's going to come with saturated and monounsaturated fat. And if you're having fish, it'll come with a good amount of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, optimal protein intake for each one of us may be a little bit different. Like I said before, anywhere between about 0.6 to 1 gram per pound of your lean body mass or your goal weight is a good place to start. Protein sources we like to focus on are animal source, whole unrefined foods. So things like steaks, eggs, fish. Cheese is fine for some of us, but some of us might want to avoid it because cheese is super palatable and it's so easy to overeat it. My kids will eat as much cheese as is on a table and then ask for more at the expense of all other foods. So we don't want to make cheese like the main source of protein. We don't want to make protein powders the main source of protein. We want to be focusing on ruminant animals, fish and seafood. If you like wild-caught game meat, that's great too. Pork is fine, chicken's fine, turkey's fine, although I'd rather you eat more ruminant animals. Ruminant animals are always going to give better nutrition than fowl and then pork. All right, so lamb, sheep, goat, beef. Those are all going to be better sources of nutrition than pork, chicken, turkey. Although all these are permitted. You want to go for the fatty cuts of meat when you can. Especially in the beginning when you're getting adapted. And we want to focus on getting that protein intake where we need it. And the fats always come with a protein. And if you need to add some fats to your plate, you can do it with things like grass-fed butter, or if you can't afford grass-fed, normal butter is fine. Ghee is fine. Even lard, tallow, animal fats. If you like avocado, avocado's great. Coconut oil can be a good source as well. Some people really like MCT. MCT can be fine. Just don't do too much of it because it will send you running to the bathroom. And of course, remember the carbs stay low. So protein, get sufficient protein, about 0.6 to 1 gram per pound of your lean body mass or your goal body weight. If you're looking at kilos, that's like 1.5 to 2.2 grams per kilo of your lean body mass or your goal body weight. Fat, from 1 to 1.5 grams of fat per gram of protein to start out. And then we'll adjust as necessary. If your hunger drops super low, obviously you don't need to eat so much fat. But in the beginning, the first week or so, we don't want to just focus on the fat loss. We want to focus on building the habits. Now remember, it takes years for us to put on 20, 50, 100 pounds that we need to lose. We can't expect this to come off instantly. And it can be very traumatic to the body and very traumatic to our psychology to create the starvation situation where we don't feel good when we're trying to lose weight. So what we want to do is set up the habits, set up a lifestyle. Set up your day, set up your food intake to where it's enjoyable and you can sustain it long term. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about are electrolytes. When you're starting out a ketogenic diet, one of the things that people experience very often is the dreaded keto flu. You feel like crap for a few days. And that's not just because you pull out the carbohydrates and you're switching fuel sources and your body's not able to burn that fat effectively yet. What happens also, when we pull out the carbohydrates and we get in a low insulin state, the body is triggered to release water weight. With that water weight goes sodium, magnesium, and potassium. Those are also known as the electrolytes. Calcium is another electrolyte, but we don't really need to increase calcium intake on a ketogenic diet. But sodium, magnesium, and potassium can be crucial. All right, so first of all, we want to look at sodium levels. That's the easiest one to take care of. You know what you do? You just put salt on your food, right? So salt your food liberally. Most people are going to require at least a couple teaspoons of salt per day. We want to get in at least 5,000 to 7,000 milligrams of sodium per day. That can be achieved from using like 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt with each meal. All right, you start out by salting your food to taste. If you feel like you could maybe use a little bit more salt, you probably can. Sodium is the easiest one to regulate. And just simply getting enough salt and increasing salt intake can reduce the symptoms of the transition to keto, with this so-called keto flu, dramatically. It can make it so much easier. So get more salt in. Sometimes having a little bit of salt in between meals can be really useful. Now, salt is a master regulator of hunger, just like protein is. So if we get enough protein, we're not going to eat the other macros with such voracity, right? If you were to calorie restrict somebody, starve them, and then give them a buffet, and give them different buffets of different macronutrient ratios, what you would find across the board is once they reached a certain threshold of protein intake, they would stop eating the other macros. If you were to deprive them of protein in this buffet, people would end up eating the other macros to excess until they got enough protein. Now, there's an entire theoretical framework about this called the protein leverage hypothesis, which basically holds that if you get enough protein, you will leverage that to reduce hunger. And thus, eating more protein usually results in better fat loss, better body composition, and better health in most people. Now, of course, when you take it a step further and you're getting all the fat-soluble vitamins, all the deep nutrition you need from quality, unrefined foods and animal foods, satiety is improved even more. But the protein leverage hypothesis is pretty important. And there's a similar reaction that the body has to salt. So salt intake is really important, and processed food makers, people who make those potato chips that we get addicted to, know this. When we're reaching for the potato chips, we're not just doing it for the carbs, we're doing it for that salt. Salty, fatty foods hit the palate in just the right way to make the human react and enjoy it and eat more of it. which these inhumane creators of all these junk foods leverage and weaponize against our palate in order to sell us a bunch of crap. All right, so they put the salt in those processed foods. And what's cool about sodium intake is once you get enough of it, your hunger will drop significantly. And of course, these processed foods get past that by putting sugar and carbohydrates and starches and fried stuff in with the salt to make you just keep eating and eating and eating. But in the context of a ketogenic diet, we're not eating a bunch of refined foods. We're eating unrefined whole foods. It's cool because when we get enough protein and get enough salt, we usually are not hungry. So sometimes you might feel a little bit lethargic or lightheaded, and that could simply be because it's a lack of salt, because you've got a lack of salt. Get enough sodium in, and you should not experience some of the worst aspects of the transition of a ketogenic diet called keto flu, right? Which might be headaches, lethargy, flu-like symptoms, just feeling like crap, feeling really down, feeling aches, cramps in your legs. Those are all symptoms of just electrolyte insufficiencies. Barbara says I'm cutting out. Am I cutting out for anybody else?
I get occasional.
Let me just disconnect and reconnect here.
You never recorded it, right?
Yeah, I'm recording it, so it's but I don't want you to have to listen to it again. Let me just disconnect here from voice chat and reconnect and see if that helps. Okay, is it more clear now? Is it still cutting out between sentences? Testing.
It's kind of like every minute or two.
Okay, let me just try one more thing.
Always do let us know if this happens.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know if we're cutting out because sometimes it's really easy to troubleshoot. Okay, so that should be a little bit better. I'm recording everything now, so everything will be very clear in the recording because that's just going directly through the microphone. Sorry, guys. All right, so hopefully we're good now. So get enough salt in. Most of us are going to need about 5,000 to 7,000 milligrams of salt. If you get lightheaded in between meals, you might just need sodium, right? That little lull sometimes we get in the middle of the day. That could just be from sodium depletion, right? Sometimes we think it might be, my blood sugar's crashing. I need to raise my blood glucose up, or maybe you feel like your blood sugar might be super high. But sometimes it's just salt. Sometimes we just need more salt. So salt's a really good tool to use for lowering hunger levels. In the middle of the day, if you're feeling a little bit hungry, try just tossing back a little bit of salt. Take a quarter teaspoon or a half teaspoon of salt. Toss it in your mouth and then chase it down with some water. I don't really like drinking it in the water, although some people prefer it that way. But sodium intake is crucial when you're getting adapted. There's two other electrolytes that we're concerned with, magnesium and potassium. Sometimes supplemental magnesium can be really useful. So supplementing with like 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate or magnesium gluconate can be useful for a lot of people. Most of the foods we eat are very depleted in magnesium these days. Stress will use up magnesium stores. And also very high blood glucose and inflammatory responses in the body will eat up that magnesium. So sometimes increasing the magnesium can be really helpful. Now, of course, we can get magnesium in the diet through both animal and plant foods, but sometimes supplementing can be useful. So in the beginning of a ketogenic diet, sometimes it's nice to have about 400 milligrams of magnesium per day. In the evening, it can help sleep, it can help relax the central nervous system, and help us sleep a little bit better. So magnesium glycinate or magnesium gluconate. Can you put a link into some of the magnesiums that we might recommend? Or magnesium citrate can be useful. Not necessary for everybody. I find that people doing a more carnivorous approach, people eating more of a carnivore style diet where they're eating a significantly higher amount of meat, tend to not require so much magnesium, potassium. So Jessica just threw in a link that'll be helpful for the magnesium. I also find that once people get adapted and are used to a ketogenic diet, as the body adapts to it, supplemental magnesium seems to be less needed and less useful. But in the beginning, it can be useful to supplement with a little bit of it. Potassium is the last one. We can get potassium through the diet. We get potassium from meats, from fish, from eggs. Avocado is one of the best sources of potassium in the world. Sometimes, in very rare situations, having a little bit of supplemental potassium from either potassium chloride, like no salt, which is a salt substitute, or potassium citrate can be helpful. Those two forms are pretty bioavailable. Although you don't want to overdo it with supplemental potassium. So we're going to focus on getting that from dietary sources. If you're eating meat, fish, eggs, avocado, you'll be fine on the potassium. And probably be fine on the magnesium as well. Although getting a little dose of magnesium in can be helpful for a lot of people. So those are the electrolytes. And those are the macros. Now we're going to open up the floor. Love to have you guys jump in, talk, or if you just want to introduce yourselves, if you've got any questions on setting up your macros, or if you just want us to tell you what we think your macros should be, totally fine with that. I'll open up the floor now. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go down the list. Barbara, if you got anything, you can unmute yourself. If you want to jump in, say what's up.
Hi, how you doing?
There you are. What's up, Barbara?
Oh, not too much, but I did have a question. Been thinking about it. Been doing the carnivore-ish keto diet.
Yeah,
and,
right.
My hair is starting to fall out, and it's frustrating. And I'm wondering, as you already know, that according to my optimal protein, that's about a pound of, let's just say a pound of steak. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, when we talked before, you need to be getting at least a pound of meat in per day.
Yeah, I'm about getting maybe a half.
Yeah, that's why your hair's falling out. You're under eating dramatically.
I know, but I can't put it all in my body.
Yeah. Well, what if you split up into two meals? I mean, a half pound in the morning, a half pound in the evening.
Yeah, I just can't get it in. I start to get really, I just can't fit it. I mean, it's sitting there. I eat about half of that, and I just can't put it in. You know,
well, that's the thing
the
thing is, if we undereat, we significantly undereat, we get thyroid hormone output decreases. The body will start getting things like alopecia. We start losing hair. So we're going to need to work on getting enough food in. You know, we got to get enough of the nourishment in. We need to get those fat-soluble vitamins in. What's up, man?
Oh, I was just going to ask, is it, Barbara, because you find it just unpalatable after a while, or is it just...
I mean, I'm full, I'm satisfied, and, you know, once your brain says, stop eating, you can't eat anymore.
Well, the thing is, if you're just doing one meal a day, that's what
I'm doing 2 meals a day.
Okay, you're doing 2 meals a day now.
Yeah. I do morning, which I don't like eating in the morning, but you told me to. So I eat in the morning, like an hour or so after I get up. And then obviously I eat in the evening.
Yeah. Now, when we first talked, if I remember correctly, when we first talked, you told me that you were having issues with your hair falling out before you started this.
Yeah, it had grown back and it was doing really well, and then it started doing that again. So I don't know if it's vitamins. I do take hair and nail vitamins.
If we're undernourished, if we're not getting enough food in, that's what happens. So I mean, what I would say in your situation, I mean, maybe start getting in some broth in the morning, get a little bit more collagen in with that broth. But we need to increase the food intake.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Is can you add? I have like organically sourced collagen that I haven't used really much, and I wondered if I could just add that to my food.
Yeah, that could be helpful, adding a little bit of collagen in there. When you have broth, it You get the collagen, you get the gelatin.
Yeah, I just ordered that kettle and fire broth.
Cool.
So I should be getting that soon.
Nice. Yeah, that should be helpful.
Through your link that you gave me. So yeah.
Right on. Right on.
So
yeah,
that was
but
my question.
what we want to do is we want to comfortably increase. We got to increase the caloric intake. So whether that means having 3 meals a day and those meals be significantly smaller, that could be useful. But I mean, if the hunger is just so low, are you losing a significant amount of weight?
I haven't lost any weight.
Yeah.
I haven't lost any weight in 4 months, 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like there's some major immune system compromise going on, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, just to tell everyone so that they don't freak out, I'm a total wreck. I'm 57 years old. I've been dieting since I thought I was so fat in 1979, and I actually weighed 100 pounds. For my 5-foot frame, I was fine. But I got hooked into the diet industry, and I stayed ever since. And between starving and overeating, and I really trashed things that way. But I didn't know because I was eating the way they told me to eat. I was vegetarian.
What about iodine levels? What about iodine levels? I'm not hearing iodine talked about.
Yeah, iodine can be very important too. So I mean, getting fish and seafood in.
I just had all that done, so.
I mean, if you're
it doesn't always show a blood test.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to figure that out.
There's conversion problems with that as well, and they don't test that a lot in the medical fields.
And the problem is supplemental iodine can be very risky as well because you have to take cofactors. There's selenium, there's other cofactors when you're supplementing with iodine. But eating iodine-rich foods can be really useful. I mean, fish, seafood, shellfish. Those are all good sources of iodine, but we're also, I mean, in this specific case, I mean, it's really hard when we're doing group discussions like this, Barbara, because people don't understand what's going on with you. They don't understand the cocktail of pharmaceuticals that you've been on for years as well, and that you've had, right? Like, I mean, Barbara's had, she's had amputations and she's had, major surgeries, and she's not this is not just the average case of somebody.
I'm not normal, you guys, so don't freak out. But I wanted to join the group because I really felt it would be helpful to just talk with and chat with other people who are doing a similar diet to mine because, you go out, walk out your door, and there's not that many people who understand keto or carnivore at all. So I really appreciate being able to be here. So
right. I mean,
thank you. I will definitely work on, if you think it's okay to eat 3 times a day, it's not as if my pancreas is pumping out insulin because I'm not eating any carbs. So maybe that 3 times a day would definitely help me get in that.
It might, because I mean, I know you have trouble eating. I mean, you're taking a lot of the pharmaceuticals that you're on decrease hunger and make it difficult to assimilate nutrients as well, so they exacerbate nutrient deficiencies. I mean, it's a difficult situation, but I think it's important to not get overwhelmed, to not get so stressed out about all these fluctuation and changes. And of course, you have environmental changes that are happening as well. You have seasonal changes that affect things like thyroid hormone output that affect our bodies significantly. In your case, we talked about before, getting more sunshine, getting outside, looking into red light therapy, improving immune function, collagen synthesis through that route can be useful too. Because you're bypassing the need to be digesting nutrients in order to create energy. When you're using light, certain frequencies of red and near infrared light can improve mitochondrial density, mitochondrial function, and help with these things. But I mean, it's in a situation like yours, you're obviously your body is when you're learning a lot as you go. I mean, your body is in constant fluctuation. You've got a lot of things going on. It takes time. And it takes time. It's hard coming out of the holidays too, and everything's been all intense and all the family
cakes over steaks.
Exactly. How did that go?
Whoops. It actually went really well because I got sick. So those keto cakes just went to friends, and it actually worked out really well. And I think that really walking away from sort of that mindset for now really has helped.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't feel better. I do. I've decreased a lot of my medications in the last month by quite a bit. I won't get into the details, obviously, but just to say that things get better. Even if I'm not losing any weight, I feel better. So that's a really big start.
Yeah. Well, and now that you're not sick, and we start focusing on, you're obviously focusing on strengthening your body and moving around a little bit more. So I think that's going to become important too. I mean, just the increased hair loss during you being sick wouldn't be a surprise. Right.
No, and I just wondered if collagen would be something that would just help in the short run.
Absolutely. I mean, collagen, also making sure to get in, who was it? Was it Christine?
Iodine. Yeah.
Yeah, Christine mentioned iodine too. Making sure to get iodine-rich foods in. Have some shrimp. Have some shellfish. Cod liver oil. But yeah, I think you're. I think you're on the right track. But we'll see what happens. We're gonna keep dialing it in.
Thanks, Tristan.
Yeah. All right, Barbara. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
All right. Who's next?
Caitlin.
Where's Caitlin?
Number 2.
Is she here?
Go down the list.
Caitlin, are you here? All right. What about Christine? What's up, Christine?
Hi,
Hey, nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. I too have had a lot of hair loss, but I've had a lot of things going on that could affect that as well.
Right. You had a major injury recently too, right?
Yeah, well, I was losing it before that. I did keto probably 2 years, and then my hair just started coming out in handfuls. But
What do you mean by keto? It's like what were you doing?
Fairly high amount of fat. Kept my protein about what you're saying.
Yeah.
My carbs about 20 per day. But I may have been under eating protein a little bit. I was pretty busy doing it, so. But I was also working 10-hour shifts 7 days a week. So.
Yeah, that's what I would think would have much more to do with that, right? I mean, you're looking at major stress. You've had low thyroid hormone output and conversion problems too, right?
Yeah, in the past. At that time, I don't think I was having much problem. My energy was always up. But now here lately, since my hair started falling out, I started tracking my temperature a little bit, and it's wanting to run low. I've been taking iodine, and it's going back up. But I think I was also having some problem with goitrogens. Because when I switched to keto, I started doing more like cabbage and things like that. Yeah, see, this is the thing that a lot of people forget. It's like when you get on keto, a lot of people increase their oxalate intake too. They start eating lots of goitrogens, like broccoli every meal. And then, very, very high, lots of spinach, lots of oxalate, and they start wondering why they're getting fibromyalgia type symptoms and, more pain and stuff like that. And sometimes some of these plant toxins, plant compounds can have very negative effect on the body. So I think in your case, it might be better to look towards a lower goitrogen and definitely low oxalate intake. I have cut those. I've cut both of them out, and with the iodine and cutting those few things, my hair's quit falling out. So nice. But I'm also working with tube. See, it's so hard. It can be so hard to pinpoint what's going on, right? So we started making simple dietary changes, but then we have life fluctuations as well, right? It's like suddenly you're working the night shift. Well, if we're working nights, blaming our gut disruption on our diet might be short-sighted, right? Because stress plays a major part in all this stuff. So, yeah, it seems like stress is kind of a major theme so far today with what's going on as far as diet goes. Yeah, I just didn't know if it was because it seems like they're similar foods, the oxalates and the goitrogens. And some of them can be kind of similar, I guess. But is dropping those? What do I switch to? Because I've had trouble finding things. I went to iceberg lettuce, but I don't think it's as nutritious. Well, the thing is, when you're not when you start looking into fat-soluble vitamins, the vitamin contents of food, you inevitably come to the information that plants are full of anti-nutrients that actually block the absorption of these nutrients. So while spinach may have loads of calcium, it's full of oxalate. And the oxalate binds to the calcium, creates calcium oxalate crystals that can create loads of problems in people, right? So, what do we replace them with? Why should we replace them? Might be a.
I was going to ask if I should do more of the carnivore. Having trouble with those.
I'd say in your situation that might be a better way to go, right? It's if you've had chronic inflammatory responses to foods, if you've had issues with digestion a lot in the past. I mean, there's a lot of research about. Here, I'll put a study in here right now for you. And this will kind of ease your mind. But a lot of people, we think that fiber is required for digestion. And then if we have constipation, well, it must be because we have low fiber. But, I mean, this study from 2012 right here that I'm about to throw up in the main chat is titled, Stopping or Reducing Dietary Fiber Intake Reduces Constipation and Its Associated Symptoms. So fiber is not necessarily good for digestion in all cases. Some people do well with a little higher fiber. Some people do well and much better with no fiber. So I think in your case, I would go towards more of a lower fiber diet and see if that helps. You mentioned you've had like medically, you've had, for medical reasons, you've had like, you've done enemas in the past and you had constipation issues, right?
Yeah, I have to do them every day.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. So,
been
yeah,
forever, since probably 20 years now.
So yeah, you got major.
Even as a child, I struggled. I didn't know if a carnivore might help heal that up, but they think I have nerve damage.
You know what? I mean, it might not remove the need for the assistance in passing, your bowels, but it might make it much easier. And you'd be decreasing the fermentable material that the negative bacteria could be feeding on. All right, so it's like we're feeding our gut bacteria with fiber all the time. We think, oh, the fiber is good for the gut bacteria. What gut bacteria? I mean, there's millions of different bacteria. There have been a few that have been identified and studied. There are many that we think are good in certain cases, but then we look and they can also become pathogenic. Even lactobacillus can become pathogenic. Right, so I mean, so we're reducing fiber intake in a lot of people who've had chronic inflammatory disease. It seems to be very useful. And
what about osteopenia?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're looking at oxalate and what they can do here, let's put let's put one of these. Sally K. Norton has some really good. Have you ever heard of this lady Sally K. Norton? She does some good talks on oxalates.
Well, I think so. Yeah.
Let me give you a talk. This is a good one. Here it is. All right, so there's two ladies here talking about oxalate toxicity. Look, they're looking at the world through oxalate-colored glasses, right? So you got to understand. We don't want to get too crazy and too fanatical about this stuff and start, oh my goodness, the oxalates are ruining the world. This is the problem with everything and everybody all the time, right? It's always oxalate. We don't want to fall down to that trap. Just like some people that get into keto, they're like, oh my goodness, the carbohydrates are causing every problem in the world ever, always. we got to take it with context, right? But this one is a really good conversation all about oxalate toxicity and what they can do. So I'm looking at Jessica's got your what's it called? Your questionnaire right here. You've had major back problems and nerve problems your whole life. Oxalates can definitely interfere with that and definitely do interfere with thyroid hormone output and can lodge themselves in the thyroid. So oxalate, I mean, your situation with having obviously a history of having to take a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, obviously a history of gut permeability issues, you're not breaking down and dealing with these oxalates very well at all. So increasing the plant intake when you did start a ketogenic diet, and although you felt better because you're getting more fats and you probably start getting enough protein, a lot of people, they get on keto or they go on a paleo diet and some things get worse. They're like, why is my digestion getting worse? Why is my skin getting worse? Or these symptoms are better, but these symptoms are worse. Well, a lot of this can have to do with the increase in oxalate content in the diet that people go for. So if you're eating a lot of spinach, you could be getting 10, 20, or even 100 times how much oxalate you'd be wanting to eat every day. Jeremy knows.
I was eating a lot of it.
Right? So it's like, you think it's awesome. You're like, yeah, I'm going to eat a pound of spinach a day. This is going to be great. I'll juice spinach. And I can't tell you how many people who've been like juicing spinach end up with kidney stones. Jeremy's laughing about the green smoothies.
He's an ex-vegan.
Yeah, the green smoothies too, man. So if Jeremy's coming off a vegan diet, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys are going to learn a lot from each other. So you probably learn a lot from talking to some of these former vegans. Christine, even though you've not been on a vegan diet, they get similar things. They get similar issues from eating a lot of green smoothies, doing lots of juicing and stuff like that. They get lots of similar issues as you're experiencing now. So I think there definitely is hope for you. And what I would be looking at is reducing greatly your oxalate intake and working on trying to get less than like 50 milligrams of oxalate in your diet per day. What do we replace it with? Sure, you could have iceberg lettuce. Actually, lots of people do pretty well with iceberg lettuce. It's very low oxalate, but because of your kind of inflammatory bowel condition that you've had for years, it might be better for you to go very low fiber and no fiber. All right, so focusing on animal foods, fish, seafood, fatty cuts of meat, grass-fed butter, keep that in there if you need to get the fats in and stuff like that. But getting enough protein, eating, fatty steaks, getting some liver in, this could be really helpful for you.
I had two other things I wanted to ask about too is menopause affects things, and also I had trouble with keeping my blood sugar stable. Mm-hmm. It would be like really high in the morning, even on low carb, and dairy was affecting my, like even just like half and half.
Yeah,
was affecting my glucose. But now I've been on iodine. I think the iodine, my blood sugars are staying very, very good, and I seem to be handling the dairy better.
That's so interesting. Now I wonder if that has to do with not working 10-hour shifts also.
No, because I'd been off of those for quite some time, and it was still, if I had like some half and half or something like that, it would just spike my blood sugar really bad.
Yeah.
But I got a study somewhere where it was saying that the iodine can help stabilize your glucose and help you to handle the low carb dairy better. I don't remember where I saw that from, but
I've seen, I've not looked into the specific mechanisms, but I have heard anecdotes of that happening. And I've heard of these people doing mega dose protocols on iodine and doing really well. I'm not an expert on iodine mega dosing. I've never, it's not something I've focused on. Iodine levels in foods like shrimp, fish, seafood, oysters, you can get a significant amount from these foods. So I'm not an expert on that, but you know what? I wouldn't put it past it. You start.
Yeah, I've just been tracking it though. I've just been tracking it, seeing how it goes.
Good. And what you want to do is try not to make huge drastic changes 5 times. Like try not to do 5 different massive changes at the same time, because it's almost impossible to know what's doing what, right? And our environment's in constant flux. We have seasonal changes that'll affect things too. So we want to try to stay objective in tracking what is doing and what in our body. But I think in your situation, looking at somebody like Barbara, she was always constipated as a kid and as an adult and as a kid. She says now, she's typed this in the chat, now no problems that I got rid of the fiber. So in your situation, I think going lower fiber might be a better way to go about it. Going more carnivore, probably going to be better for you. And foods like liver, actually liver's got a decent amount of iodine in it as well. But the vitamin A content of liver for helping to regenerate the nerves that you've had damage to nerves in the past, it'd be really helpful. So I'd focus on foods like liver, heart, and try to get those in like once a week if you can. Get the fatty cuts of meat in, and enjoy some fish and seafood. You can get some fatty fish in there too, or some shellfish. It's great too.
Okay.
Awesome. Great to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's cool. We've had both people that talk in the beginning have been hard cases. Right? So this is fun. Last month it was a little bit more mellow. Everybody was just cruising. now we've got some more hard cases this time. So this is it's going to be fun. Thanks a lot for joining us this month, Christine.
Thank you.
All right. So who's next? Jeremy? What's up, Jeremy? Can you unmute? You got unmutability?
Yep.
What's up, man?
It's going all right. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about my story. I kind of got into veganism like around 2006 for a lot of the health reasons, I guess, reported health reasons. So that was around the time the book The China Study came out, and that's kind of like the vegan Bible if you've not read it. And so I did veganism for the better part of like 9 or 10-ish years, and then the last like 2 years of it I was like mostly vegan with some animal products, and then kind of this September I just said screw it, this is working, and just basically went carnivore, you know, as the base. I guess like I'm not strict yet, I'm still kind of learning about it, but I met a lot of, like, over the years I met a lot of, I guess, called famous vegans on YouTube and that whole community, and saw, like, you know, it was kind of confusing because for a while everyone seemed to be doing really well, and then, you know, after between 5 and 10 years, a lot of them aren't doing so well. Yeah, including myself.
It's really hard to see, and it's so hard to get out of that mind state too. Right? It's got to be everything. Can't be the diet. I'm doing the perfect diet.
Right. Anything but the right answer, kind of like, you know, how it got to be. So I guess like now I eat pretty simply. I guess that's what kept me doing it so long, as I do eat really simple. Like I don't eat out a lot. Very occasionally I'll eat out, but I'll so breakfast might be like salmon and eggs and like, you know, no seasoning or very little seasoning, something like that. So my meals are typically very like simple. I still eat some sugary fruit during the day. Like, you know, some days I just feel like I need some blueberries or something because I'm not making it through the day with just meat. And occasionally I still do eat vegetables. I think my biggest physical problem now coming off veganism with dental issues, I mean, that's the most obvious to me. So those seem to have slowed down, and I'm trying to figure out what to do, you know, whether to let the carnivore diet, you know, try to reverse some of it, or just go to the dentist and get it taken care of with something.
Yeah. So you have like several cavities, or?
Yeah, and I've got some spots that are kind of like demineralized or pitted, like they're just basically little holes. So like I assume my body was pulling what it needed from my teeth, you know, for the rest of the critical organs or whatever, you know. And so I've got a couple of those. I've got a couple of cavities. Some of them are like, you know, not very deep. Some of them are more deep. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, should I let this heal for a while, or should I just, you know, get them drilled and filled, or like hold, or, you know, something like that.
But you do feel them getting better? That's interesting.
It's the dental stuff?
Yeah. You feel it changing?
I feel it's not getting worse. I don't know. Like, it's only been 3 or 4 months since I've been doing this, so I don't know. I will say I had the opposite effect with the hair, though, and that might be because of the veganism. Like, when I started eating meat every day, I noticed my hair was growing. I have a bald spot. I'm 40, so I've noticed that the hair was actually growing back there. I don't know if it's going to fill in entirely, but nice. I had kind of the opposite effect, like coming off veganism and eating meat again. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, see, it's always nice to see the different perspectives, right? It's you know, and there's other factors that come into play too with our immune system, right? It's like insufficient sleep, super high stress. These things are all going to cause both nutrient absorption issues and nutrient deficiencies just through the very nature of how the body works. I'm glad to hear everything's improving. And now, in a situation like yours, I think, you know, I mean, obviously, whatever you're going to do with your teeth, if you're going to get it filled, that's going to be something you're going to have to explore on your own. But we do know that, you know, vitamin K2, vitamin D, vitamin A, these are all involved in the regeneration of tissue. So I would, you know, focusing on things like liver, grass-fed, butter, you know, getting.
So what I've tried so far, I fortunately live in an area of the United States that has a lot of like pastured animal products, or nice. Like, you know, just higher higher quality if you're willing to put up the money for it. So we do that with our family. And so like I tried like chicken hearts, which I could eat 1 or 2, and then they got kind of gross after that. So I don't know if liver is going to be the same. If I'm going to like eat, like a bite or 2 of liver, and then it's going to be gross.
Liver's good, man. No, you'll like liver more. Chicken liver, chicken heart's not as good as beef liver. But, you got to learn how to prepare it, too. Honestly, I'm a weirdo, but and Jessica might agree with me. I think liver tastes better raw, especially once you get used. It is an acquired taste, and when I first had liver raw, I was afraid, right? And it was okay. It tasted kind of good, but now I could never imagine cooking liver now. Like, so, I mean, I think raw liver, it's much more bioavailable as well. Like, you digest it much better, and you're not killing off all the nutrients by cooking it.
So does it taste like really like iron? Because that was my experience with the chicken parts. It tasted like eating a penny or something.
No,
liver tastes sweet. Liver tastes sweet.
Yeah.
It tastes really sweet. Yeah, so I would cook it lightly or something. If you saute it in some butter or something if you don't like it raw. But I would get in some liver. I would focus on. I mean, even if I'm not big on supplements, but like supplementing vitamin K2 with vitamin D, like a vitamin D with K2, can be useful in that situation.
Yeah, my goal is little or no supplements, so I probably will try swapping foods before I do the vitamins, just because. That's kind of my principle of eating is like kind of got to go back to the source and see if I can get a better source.
Right, and there's some people who they don't want to try different foods. They're just like, dude, I just want to eat like burger patties, and in those situations it might be useful to use like a desiccated liver capsules or something like that, where it's just dried liver put in a pill. So yeah, I mean, in your situation, what I would do, increase fat-soluble vitamins from foods like grass-fed butter, even like maybe some heavy cream. I'm not sure how you do with dairy, but that might be useful. Are you underweight still, or are you at a healthy weight now?
I think I'm at a good like resting weight. Like I'd like to put on more lean muscle or whatever someday. But I think like the weight I'm at is about where I was at. I don't know, after college time frame, like 20s, like early 20s. So. I think like I'm 5'9", around 100. So I think it's pretty good resting weight if I'm not like doing some kind of training or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd focus on get the liver in first. Maybe even cod liver oil if you add that in. That's not even a supplement to food.
I looked at that and I've read like mixed reviews on it, and then it's like, is it rancid? Is it not? Like
just try it. You'll know if it's good for you or not. Honestly, like you try a food, you'll know. I mean, you're pretty dialed in your physiology. I would recommend.
They also have just the canned like cod livers, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just get the cod liver.
Those are all right. I mean, we got some of those. I haven't eaten those in a while. I like the fermented cod liver oil from Green Pastures. Jessica, do you like that stuff?
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, sometimes I'll really enjoy it a lot, and I'll go periods where I don't ever eat it. But I think it's a good food based. Source of vitamin A.
I found that I really like regular like Alaskan cod. Like that's super buttery and delicious.
Wow.
So I don't know what the liver tastes like.
The fermented cod liver oil is cool. It's like a little bit, I don't know, it's got like a funky. I like it. I really like the try Green Pastures fermented cod liver oil. The ones in the bottle are cheaper than the pills, right? So you get more for the same amount. I would try that one. Add a little bit of liver in there. Keep focusing on the fat-soluble vitamins. Bone marrow is another really good kind of regeneration food. There's a lot of the bone marrow is probably one of the best parts of the animal too. So a little bit of marrow, I think that'd be a good one to include.
I think I'm going to start maybe this year. I'll end up buying half or whole animal, so you get like a bunch of different stuff with that.
Yeah.
I just need a freezer for a cow or a pig, or
Yeah, go and go for ruminant over pig, right? So ruminant animals always gonna get better nutrition than cow and chicken.
Pork and chicken.
Pork and chicken rather. Ruminant is a cow.
Okay.
All right, man. Cool. Well, I'm glad to have you on board. Of course, if you need anything, let us know. But let's start with that. Let's try to increase the fat soluble vitamin intake from getting a little bit more nutrient density in these types of food, and see how your body reacts to it. You might find that some of these organs you start craving. Like you might crave liver for a month and then you stop craving it. Right? It's like the body gives good feedback if we learn how to listen to it. It also gives really bad feedback if we listen to it at the wrong time. So yeah, man. Nice meeting you, Jeremy.
Thanks.
All right. What's up, everyone? We got Keith, Kenny, Kyle, and Russell. How's it going, Keith? Feel free to unmute yourself if you can. Hey, can you hear?
This is actually the first time I've been on the internet, so.
Ever?
No, but talking to people.
Oh, cool, man.
It's different.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, nice to have you here, man.
I live in I'm kind of a train wreck, man. Diabetes, I have to take insulin, I have IBS.
Yeah.
So you blew my mind with the oxalate stuff. I eat a lot of spinach and things like that.
Oh, yeah, and that'll really get in there with the depression, with IBS, with inflammation, stuff like that. That in your situation, man, Jessica just passed me your questionnaire, so, you know, I would say in your situation, cutting out the fiber might be a better idea, right? Like if I were you, what I would go towards is more of a carnivore style diet, especially with the chronic pain, you know, history, you had ACL replacement, and I think a carnivore diet might be the best way to go, right? You're going to be restricting all those foods that you would be emotionally eating. What do you think about that?
I'm all for it. I'm willing to try anything to go. So,
all right, let's get you. I think in your situation, you're gonna probably want to eat at least a couple pounds of meat a day. You know, go for the fatty cuts like ribeyes, T-bones, stuff like that. You know, ground beef. Go for the higher fat quality, the higher fat ground beef. Yeah, I think the spinach and the stuff like that. With your history of you know, inflammation in joints and stuff like that, I don't think those oxalates are doing you any good. So I think the oxalate toxicity could be a major issue. That doesn't mean you're doomed to have to eat a carnivore diet forever. It's just like, all right, here's home base. This is what this does. And then you start adding from there. And you see what happens.
Right. Yes, sir.
So that's what I want you to do, man. It's really good to meet you. I'm glad you joined us, dude. You're rarely hungry now. You started, let's see, when did you start your current, you've been doing keto, right?
Off and on. I really don't get hungry. I eat when my blood sugar drops. I get dizzy and grouchy. You don't stop. My brain doesn't say you're until it's really full.
Yeah. All right, so let's try to eat before you get super hungry. All right, so before you get super hungry, what I'd like you to do is wake up in the morning, try to get your first meal within an hour of waking up. We're going to talk about all the meal timing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about meal timing and all that stuff, I think, next week as well. But for you, try to get a meal within an hour of waking up. Nice carnivore breakfast. Focus on ruminant animals over pork, right, and over chicken. So I'd rather have you... Best thing you'd eat in the morning would probably be something. I mean, the most simple thing would be like a like a ribeye steak, right? Because you're getting several different muscles of the animal there that'll have different nutrient contents, and then you have the nice fat that's in between each one of those muscle bellies that and it's connected to the bones. So they say the sweetest meat is next to the bone, which is kind of true. It always tastes meat off a bone tastes great. So yeah, something like a ribeye for breakfast, or even ground beef. Some nice fatty meat. And maybe breakfast and like a later meal, like dinner, or maybe an early dinner could be good for you. But I want you to eat before you get super, super hungry, because maybe what happens in situations where you feel hungry very rarely, and then when hunger hits, you finally start eating and you're ravenously hungry, it can be hard to regulate the food intake in that situation. So let's eat before you get super hungry.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Good meeting you, Keith. Let's let me know if you need anything. Feel free to tag us in any questions you got in the forum here, or you could private message us. You just go hover over our name, you right click, and you can send us a message with any questions you got. But yeah, brother, let's start going in that direction. Try to get a couple pounds of meat in a day, and after each meal, get a little movement. Like the 15-minute walk after the meal. Cruise around outside, whatever. If you get some sunshine, get out in the sun. walk around for a few minutes. I know it's maybe not the best time of year for weather, but yeah, get outside, get that natural light during the day, and that'll help you get digesting if you're moving around a little bit after that meal.
I know.
All right, Keith. Nice meeting you, brother.
Nice to meet you guys.
Who's next? We got Kenny. Kenny, you here? Can you unmute, Kenny?
Hey.
What's up, man?
Kenny. Not much.
Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here this month. Happy New Year.
Thank you. It's nice being here. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to keto and carnivore diet more accurately or the right way versus guessing at it.
Nice. And you've how long you been doing what you're doing now?
Probably like just a couple weeks of doing it more serious. I've always had a very similar carnivore diet, but then there'll be periods that there's way too much carbs and sweets and all the bad stuff.
Okay.
So it's not really that way. So it's not a big lifestyle change for me other than being more strict or actually being thought-provoked of it all, so to speak.
All right. Cool. So your goal is fat loss. I'm trying to lose a little bit of fat. You normally don't get that hungry during the day. You normally eat a lunch and a dinner. I think for you, just like with Keith, it might be a good idea to get breakfast in and start eating a little bit before you get super hungry. Because certain situations like this where we've been doing intermittent fasting and waiting to eat until later on, sometimes we overeat and the signal doesn't get to us that we're not hungry anymore. So I think in your situation, let's start getting a breakfast in. Try to get at least 2 meals a day in there. And if you intuitively feel like a more carnivorous approach would be easier for you and be better suited for you, let's go in that direction. It's always a good baseline to get to, and then any foods you add, you'll be able to tell what they're doing. So let's see. You're 5'10". You're gonna probably also want to eat at least like 2 pounds of meat a day. And go for the fatty cuts. If you can get some liver stuff like that in there once a week, it would be great. But let's start working on it, man. Let's start refining that, and let's start going in that direction.
Yeah, be great.
All right, Kenny. Nice meeting you, man.
Nice meeting you.
All right, what's up, Kyle? You still here, Kyle?
Yeah. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys too. I just want to say thank you for being timely with young ones. That's still very considerate. So thank you.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I bet. I'm just maybe had like 2 questions. Not to drag it on, but on liver, I've tried it a couple times. I'll be honest, I hate it. I never eaten it raw though, and I definitely, just by the sound of it, sounds like it'd be a lot better.
I don't like it cooked, man. If someone were to give some people know how to make a pate, but I like it better raw.
I've tried grilling it, slow cooking it. It's just got a very dry, weird texture that it just takes a long time for me to eat. So
yeah.
But any other organ I usually can get through very easily, and it's pretty good actually. So.
Try it raw, and if you like it raw, you like it. If you still hate it, then screw the liver. You don't need it. There are people who've been doing 20 years of just ribeyes from the freaking grocery store, right? So it's like we can't deny.
I hit up a very nice local farm, and they said they would let me know when they butcher the next cow. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some fresh organ meat.
My favorite way to eat liver is totally rotten.
High meat.
High meat in a jar. No, it's controlled rot, right? So I put it in a jar, cut it up. I open the jar up like once a day for a month, so you're constantly smelling it, and you start to see it. It transforms. I stir it up, make sure it doesn't get moldy or anything, and man,
fermenting. That was a big thing I wanted to learn about. Just with I watch a lot of these videos on high meat, and even with fermented foods that I just I'm I don't know how to do this right, or you don't want to screw it up. So I'm really curious about.
I was scared at first too. Yeah, I was really worried at first that it wouldn't do it right. It's just
something you never see in day-to-day life. You don't see people fermenting meat.
No, you don't.
Hey, you want to try it? So
yeah,
it's definitely something.
Yeah, you want to freak your friends out. You tell them that you're eating month-old, intentionally rotten liver. But the high liver is really good, man. I mean, after you try it raw, that might be a good It might be fun, just throw a jar in your fridge. You take like a pound of liver, cut it up, fill up a jar halfway, open it up every day or so, let it air out, mix it up a little bit, and you'll see it'll transform. It'll get a little bit slimy, and it'll eventually you'll smell it and you'll say, "I'm ready to try this." Right? Usually about 3 to 6 weeks, it's ready, and it's actually really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Jeremy says kimchi usually has fish in it. That they'd ferment fish in with the kimchi. I didn't know that.
I'm not hesitant on eating anything raw. I mean, I eat tons of sushi, and it's just raw fish. Same thing as eating any other meat to me. So.
Funny, people are afraid to eat raw beef, but they'll eat raw sushi.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Actually, when you cook a steak really rare, you can just sear the sides of it, sear it on the outside. That's a good way to start trying more raw meat. Is just go more and more rare. For anybody listening who thinks we might be crazy, if you like a rare steak, you like it because it's almost raw. So try to eat a little more raw. It might be even better.
Another thing, I live in the Pacific Northwest, so the sun doesn't show up much.
Yeah.
So and I was looking at a lot of those prices on some of those red lights, and even for very small ones, it's a pretty good investment.
Yeah, they're expensive for sure.
But I noticed that, oddly enough, that local tanning salons have red light therapy available.
Go.
And I didn't know if go.
Okay, yeah,
I didn't
that's
know
the same.
If the quality of their lights were different than lights that
they might. If you're lucky, they might have invested in like a $10,000 tanning bed that's fitted with red light therapy lights and the right frequency.
Okay.
Give it a try. See what frequencies. Ask. When you go, it can't be more than $10-15 for a treatment, right? It's probably worth.
The price. They were pretty reasonable.
Yeah. So when you go, ask them what frequencies of light they use. Ask them some questions, and then if you want to cross-reference with me, I can fill you in on if it's you're looking at red in the what is it, 610 or is it 510?
No, I think 620.
Yeah, 670. You're looking at the 660 to 680 frequency range. So 660, 670, 680, sometimes 690. That'll be the red frequency, and then you've got near infrared, which is 810. So 810, 820, 830. That's in the near infrared. Those are the two frequencies that get used most commonly in a lot of these high-end devices, and that's kind of what you're looking at. That'll give you some really good effects there. But yeah, some of these salons have amazing setups, and some of them have cheap setups, but I think it's a good idea.
I've been looking at that as well. If you live in the north somewhere, thinking about vitamin D, but so far I haven't done anything except just ate more seafood and meat.
Yeah, you know what? Vitamin D rich seafood can be a good way to go about it too. The sun, and light, it gives a very different effect psychologically, though. To when you get
it's true. I notice with my autoimmune issues that during the summer I'm usually feeling the best because I can get out and actually I can go for walks, hikes, etc. And it's sunny out, right? But the rest of the year I work inside. If I'm got a huge flare up, can't really be active, so there's no natural light I'm getting. So I'm just curious if that's how long do you usually sit under your light or by it?
I do 15 minutes sometimes. Well, actually, there's a timer on our new one. Our new one has got a 20-minute timer, so I'll do 20 minutes, and I'll rotisserie sometimes too, where it's I just did my side, so I'll do 20 minutes on the other side. I've fallen asleep under them without. There's no negative effects. People say that it'll if you go for too long, you'll maybe negate the benefits, but I can't say that I've experienced any negative effects to even falling asleep in front of it. It's very relaxing. I mean, another thing is if you got a fireplace, that can be a good substitute too. You're getting certain frequencies of red and near infrared from fire, and just laying by a fire makes everybody feel a lot better usually too.
So what's the story with the infrared? Why do you do it?
So, infrared and near infrared light have really powerful effects on cell respiration, on mitochondrial function. So, a lot of the benefits you actually get from a ketogenic diet, or carnivore diet too, you'll get from red light therapy. So, 810 frequency near infrared will penetrate 5 centimeters deep and affect the water in your body. And it'll help the in your, like the fluids in your body to charge, separate. It also releases nitric oxide and vasodilates and reduces inflammation and increases collagen synthesis. So there's a lot of things that it does. Jessica just shared. For everybody interested in the black magic we speak of right now, called red light therapy, it really works very, very well. And there's a link in the circadian rhythm section that Jessica just put up there, and she'll pin that. And that's some information.
It's the type of thing where you could just use one of those, like, so they have the infrared, like, room heaters, right? Like, so if you live in the north, it's already cold. Would that work? Like, you had the, like, infrared heaters?
There's a specific frequency that you need it, right? So the people say, well, can you just get a red light bulb? Well, there are red light bulbs that you can get, but also you need a certain wattage. Like you need a certain amount of irradiation and of energy to give you the beneficial effects. So I'm not sure if those infrared heaters, they're probably not the same frequency of light that these are emitting. These are LEDs that are tuned into a very specific frequency. So near infrared will penetrate deep into the skin, whereas red will affect your skin very profoundly. So a lot of people who have acne issues, skin issues, they use red light therapy, and it dramatically improves it. Autoimmune conditions, it actually increases thyroid hormone output. So people who are having hair loss issues and stuff like that, and low thyroid, there's links in this in what Jessica just posted right now. And I know Juve has some really, they have like a what's it called, a testimonials section of their website that has just some incredible stuff in it too. So yeah, that's man, it's just, red light therapy is a powerful thing that works on every single application. It works in many different applications and on many different levels.
That's good. That's all I want to know about it. So perfect.
Yeah, try it out, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your experience with it.
Yeah, thank you. That's pretty much all I had to ask for today. So thank you, Jessica and Tristan.
Right on.
Appreciate it.
Right on. Someone says, well, you need a loan to buy one. Yeah, that's the thing, is the devices can be expensive. But, if you have a Planet Fitness, I think is the gym that's pretty popular in the States, that has red light therapy pod things in there now that you could try out. Or if you look up like salons and places that do tanning beds and stuff, they might have a setup, or they might be able to refer you to somebody who does. All right, so what's up, Russell? Russell's here too.
How you going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. How's it going, Russ?
I'm going great.
What is going on? It's 5 a.m. there when we started, so it's probably almost 7 there now. How's it going today?
Yeah, 10-7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on diets 15 years probably.
Yeah.
I've been on and off on the keto for, I think I started first off at Atkins about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Had some success, and up and down on all different ketos diets over the years, until I discovered a lot of stuff on YouTube. I always start some sort of a new diet, and I always fail, always.
Why do you think you fail?
I got a lot more serious about the intermittent fasting and also keto the last 6 months, and I took things a lot more serious, even though I stuck to things pretty good, but I always fail in the end. I keep going on every couple of weeks or so. I go off my diet. I just give up too easy, I think.
Maybe the
I thought I didn't give up too easy, but I realised I do.
Yeah. Well, maybe the community support aspect of this can be helpful. I mean, you got a lot of other people on the same path, a lot of other people who experienced the same yo-yo dieting in the past, and we're here to hold you accountable. We're here to help you out. And we're here to help you dial in something you could stick with, because as you've noticed, like, short-term diets are just long-term failures, right? We need to create a long-term, sustainable situation that you can enjoy. So getting enough protein in, that's the cornerstone of it. You're in Australia, so you can get some decent meat over there.
At the moment, beef is a lot more expensive than what it used to be. Chicken is the cheapest thing you can get.
Oh, crazy.
So convenient, easy and convenient.
Yeah. Well, if I want you to prioritize beef over chicken whenever you can, just because the nutrient profile, the satiety that's going to bring, and the nutrition that it gives you is going to be superior to chicken.
Does it really matter what kind of beef it or?
You know what? If you can't get the best quality grass-fed beef for the muscle meats, shouldn't be a big deal at all, man. It's like even they only eat grain at the end of their life, so they're grass-fed 90% of their life. They're fed some grain to fatten them up. It's better for the cow to eat the soy than for you to eat the soy, right? So that cow's going to convert that into monounsaturated and saturated fat that you can then digest, right? So, even though a lot of people fearmonger about, well, if you're not doing grass-fed, it's terrible. Look, do what you can afford and do what you can. The worst beef in the supermarket is probably still going to be better than the best organic chicken.
Yep. I eat a lot of meat. I've always been a big meat eater, but I also eat a lot of other stuff too. That's why I'm the way I am.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to eat a lot of meat, and we're not going to eat a lot of the other stuff. You get enough of the right meat at the right time, right? And let's try to get breakfast in. Try to get at least 2 meals a day in. I know you've been doing 1 meal a day lately, right?
I've been doing intermittent fasting a fair bit for the last few months. And when I was going good, I actually wasn't very hungry for a long time. I was only having 1 meal a day in the afternoon, like late in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
But there was days I was hungry. Yep.
Well, let's try to get 2 meals a day in. Try to get breakfast and a later meal. And in your situation, see, how tall are you?
Yep.
All right. For you, I'd say you want to get in at least. You're going to want to get
170 kilos at the moment.
Yeah, you're going to want to get at least like 150 grams of protein a day minimum, right? So 150, 160 grams of protein a day at least each day. But yeah, let's we'll work on this as we move forward. I'm looking at your questionnaire right now. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to look at maybe going a lower oxalate approach. You've had back injuries in the past, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't even know what oxalate is.
Yeah, it's just there's a bunch of it in spinach, there's a bunch of it in chocolate, and it's in a lot of foods that are relatively healthy on paper, but some of us are just very sensitive to these.
I virtually don't eat any chocolate, and I've never ate spinach.
All right. Well, it won't be too hard to avoid the oxalate. The oxalate might not be a problem for you, but just looking at some of the other the chronic pain and stuff you've dealt with in the past. But yeah, we want to focus on nutrient-dense animal-based foods as the crux of the diet. If you want to have some vegetables in there and stuff like that, it's fine. But let's eat before you get super hungry. We don't want you to ever get super, super hungry. And eat the steaks, and you're not going to care about the cakes. Like that's going to be the kind of theme of the month for you. So yeah, man, it's great to have you here. Great to get to know you. Great to hear your voice today. And thanks for joining us this month, man. Let us know if you need anything. And we're here for you.
This is the first time I've ever been on a chat program also my whole life.
Nice, man. Well, glad we can be here for you.
Sort of new to all this stuff too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's cool.
I like all my children are always on it. Games and whatever they do.
Yeah. It's downsides to technology, but it can be used for good too. Nice having you here, though, Russ.
Well, anyway, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, we're going to work on getting that big out of your name. We'll put it down to Russ real soon, my friend.
Yeah.
All right, Russ.
We love your accent, Russell.
Yeah, I can't hear the American accent much in these people for some reason.
Well, not all of us sound like New Yorkers.
Yeah, that there is a bit of an accent when you're talking there.
It's good to hear your voice, and I wanted to just add that Australia, it's Australia, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of lamb and sheep down there. That's good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of we're in a really big drought at the moment, and also it's in the middle of summer. It's pretty hot. Been getting up to 40 degrees here every day. Wow. I don't know what that is in your temperature, but it's hot here.
That's hot.
Just a normal day. And so going outside is not a good thing for me because I've got little bits of skin cancer on me. Not ones that kill you, just the one that don't kill you. But I try and avoid the sun. It's too much sun around.
All right, man. Nice, really nice meeting you, Russ. Let's see, we got Vicky's here. Have a good one, man. Let us know if you need anything.
She wants help with your macros.
Vicky, did she already take off?
She said she was going to, but her name's there.
Yeah, I think Vicky actually took off. We'll send her a private message with us. She mentioned she wanted some help. She said, "What should my macros be?" Vicky, we're gonna take a look at your questionnaire and we'll just send you via private message. But yeah, sometimes if any of you guys have any questions that are you want Jessica and I to answer, you can always private message us or you can tag us in the respective section in the text chat. But it's been really nice meeting all you guys. We're gonna wrap it up now. I'm all out of words. It's been a couple hours, I think, now. Let me make sure I'm still recording. There we go. Still recording. So, tasks for the week. Let's dial in the macros, guys. Make sure we're getting enough protein. Make sure that we're getting enough fat as we adapt to this way of eating to where we're not just starving ourselves and making ourselves burn a bunch of body fat. So get at least the minimum amount of protein that we talked about today. And check out the meal prep lessons that Jessica posted. Or will post. That's going to be tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Jessica's going to throw up some meal prep. The first meal prep lessons are going to be in the meal prep section. And there we go. Jessica and Jeremy are already chatting it up a little bit in there in that room. So, yeah, look out for that tomorrow. Let us know if you need anything, guys. It's going to be a great month. You guys are all here to support each other, and we're here to support you. We're going to create the habits that you can stick with long term to get the results and keep the results that we're looking for. So have a great day. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this first Keto Collective of 2019. We have quite a few carnivore folk in this group too, which I wasn't expecting. When I first looked at the questionnaires, it seemed like most people were going towards more of a keto approach, but we've got quite a few people interested in more of a carnivore keto approach, which is going to be fun. So we've got a wide variety of interests and people from all over the world, but we are all focused on the same thing. We're all trying to be better. We're all improving our health, and we're all refining our habits and establishing sustainable habits so that we can enjoy life. So, yeah, we'll see you guys on Wednesday at what time? 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. We'll be back in live chat for Q&A, and we'll hit on whatever you guys want. So let us know if you need anything. We're here for you. Great meeting you all. Bye-bye.